Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Stage Diving with Scotty. Today, my guest is Aaron from the band Wolves and Machines. Welcome to my show.
Thanks for having me, bud.
Yeah, no problem. Well, dude, I have to ask you because I'm sure you get it or have gotten it in the past, is because it's such an interesting name. Where in the world did you get the name?
Yeah, so we started the band when we were pretty young, like 18, 17, 18 years old. And it was, I mean, I wish there was a cool story, but really what it was like throwing a bunch of names into a hat and trying to find which ones we liked. And one band name had wolves in it and one had machines in it.
You just
Put them
did it,
together.
huh?
That was it, man. And that, I mean, that was cool enough when we were 18 to keep it going.
Oh
And
my gosh, that's so funny.
yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
years later now I don't hate it as much as I thought I would, so that's all
Oh,
right.
good. No, it's definitely unique. You don't really
Yeah.
hear
Thanks, man.
a pull out of the hat kind of band name, but I
Yeah,
like that.
that's right.
It's,
Yeah.
it's funny when you kind of result to that though, because when we started my band, the Spacing Effect, when we were trying to figure out our name, Aaron and I, people have heard this before if they've watched this, but we had so many freaking names, and we got to a point where we just did it in a hat too, and it just even that didn't work,
Yeah.
and so we just couldn't agree. That's the only thing Aaron and I really disagreed on was a band name.
Yeah. That's a
So,
cool
but it's
band
so
name though. I like it.
thank you. Well, that's how I feel about Wolves
It's
and
like the
Machines.
most
That's cool.
important part of being a band is figuring out the name. It's like the biggest decision. Everything after that, it's gravy.
Yeah, I mean, you would think it would be super
Right.
easy, but when you're kind of like, no, this sounds too hardcore. This
Yeah.
sounds too metal. This sounds too emo.
Exactly.
No, but that's cool. And you guys have been around what since 2010?
2008 we kind of started. Yeah. First album in 2010. So yeah. Been a minute.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so let me ask you. I usually ask people this, like, so what was it in regards to how was music sort of when did you start to really notice music, and then when did it kind of like bite you in the butt and went like, I have to do this?
Yeah. I mean, there was always like music around for me, speaking for myself, there was always kind of music around. My folks were big like oldies people, so a lot of oldies radio coming up. I always just kind of liked music. I was one of those kids that like there would be like a song or two that would just be like that would be the song that I would just want to listen to constantly and
Yeah.
playing it over and over. And I don't know, so I don't know when it hit. I took piano lessons when I was a kid, like everybody kind of seems to
Yeah.
do, and wasn't crazy about it. I played trumpet in school, and it was fine. But I think I just kind of picked up a guitar, and I always thought playing guitar was cool.
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of thinks guitar is cool, so I always was like, someday that'd be cool to learn it.
Mhm.
My brother had an acoustic guitar. He didn't play, and I just kind of started fooling around on it at one point, and everything kind of triggered after that. Like it was like I'm playing guitar, so no, I want to find music that makes me want to play more guitar,
Yeah.
and then from there, it's like, okay, right now I'm playing, the simpler stuff, and then I start finding stuff that's a little more intricate and developing from there. And I would just, when I started, I was like 14, and just it was like I started out playing bass, but it was like lock yourself in the bedroom and just play for 8 hours,
Oh yeah.
play when you get home from school, all day every day. And now I feel like I've like leveled out. Like I've been as good at guitar as I am for the last, like I haven't gotten any better in like,
Yeah.
whatever 15 years, but those first couple of years I just, it was just
It's just,
constant playing all the
yep.
time. So yeah, so it was just kind of, symbiotic that way. Like the more that I played guitar, the more I wanted to like go out and find different bands that I liked and different communities of people. And yeah, it just kind of shaped my whole life from there. Everybody that I know, I kind of know from music at this point.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
what was, well, let me ask you, what was, since acoustic kind of really connected with you, what was the first moment when you started playing? I'm assuming you kind of did it by ear, right? It sounds like
Yeah,
it was by
yeah, a
ear.
little bit. Yeah, I mean, I had the benefit of having a little bit of music background, like I said, like a little bit of piano and a little bit of I trumpet. So I had ideas of how notes
For
relate
the
to each
key.
other and stuff like that. So I had a little bit of
Just kind of
foresight, I
the ear for
guess.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it was really just kind of sitting down and hammering it out. And I mean, like I said, it was an acoustic guitar I picked up, but I just could not figure out chords for the life of me. So that's why I went to
Oh,
bass. I was just like,
okay.
oh, a bass, you don't have to play chords, but I can like still, I can still rock. So eventually I came around, but yeah.
So what was your first song that really that you kind of figured out the chords and you kind of like or whatever it was that kind of like I can do this. I can
Yeah.
do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, a song, man, that's a good question because it was just kind of I just listened to so much Blink 182 when I started playing. It was just a lot of Blink 182, a lot of like just that, the whatever was kind of in that, Warp Tour pop punk stuff that it
Oh,
was
okay.
like I can look up tabs and understand how to read those. And
Yeah.
so like, and then from there you're like, okay, I can play every Blink song at this point. And it's kind of, it's like I dig the stuff, but I want to get something more complicated, and then it moves on from there, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny how that happens because when I was in a punk band, we were called Unchained, and I was still kind of learning guitar as well. My idea was I wanted to be like this really rad punk guitarist, but I
Hmm.
wanted to do leads. And our
Yeah.
guitarist wasn't doing leads; he was doing just like the basics, which is fine.
Yeah.
So our drummer at the time, he got us into a local band called Whitecaps, and and the guitarist was just a sick guitarist for this punk band. And they had such a great punk.
Hmm.
They're like the Vandals. They were
Yeah.
really, really fun. And so my idea was I want to be like that guy.
Hmm.
And so then I tried to do it. I kind of figured him out, listened to it over and over and over and over, and kind of picked up on it. And so I would kind of do some of that stuff. And then I kind of just, like you, I wanted more. I wanted more.
Hmm.
And then I kind of got to a point where I just stayed. And then I got into emo. And then emo kind of dropped off from the leads. And then it was like, what kind of weird screwed up chords can I do?
Yeah. Right.
The
Totally, man.
progression.
Like how it went really quickly. Same like you said, from like power chords and chunking along to being like, dude, I can't play power chords in this. Like that's so stock. I can't do that anymore. I have to find like the weirdest, when I'll be working on writing something and like the part totally calls for just something straightforward and power chordy. I'm like, no, I can't do it, man. Like,
Yeah.
I've turned around on that. And I love the sound of power chords. There's some weird mental block there that I had for forever. Totally. And yeah, and I mean, I have friends that have been in awesome bands that, it's based around like the power chords, and they're incredible players. They're awesome. There's nothing lower about, I mean, they're way better than me at guitar, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff. I always had this weird mental hang up with it. And now I played in a cover band for a few years with some buddies that were awesome musicians and still are. And that kind of forced me to do some of that stuff. And I was like, oh, this is like the most fun thing to do. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not thinking about like these stupid, big open chords and stuff. I can just chunk along, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I even noticed that in the music for Wolves and Machines was I noticed the difference between well here let's kind of go through them a little if that's all right. So the first one was Ailments, right, in
Yes, sir.
2010.
Yeah.
So well it's funny because the sound of the band, I'll say that, reminded me of a few bands. So at times it sounds like Death Cab for Cutie mixed with Further Seems Forever sort of meets May,
Hmm.
and especially when the sort of difference between the albums. And then with Remedies, you kind of went almost all acoustic,
Hmm.
and very chill, very indie rock sounding, which
Hmm.
reminded me again a little bit of Death Cab for Cutie a lot. And then you hit Since Before Our Time in 2014, and wow, what a change from going from Remedies to that one, where you jumped back into sort of the emo rock thing, and you came back with a vengeance, in my opinion. And there was a lot of, I really liked that album. It was really good. And there was three things that kind of stuck out to me was All Alarms. Drift is my favorite song off of that one. I
Oh,
love
cool.
that song.
Right on, man.
Very emo. Uh, and then your instrumental, Turn to Stone, which I really dug. And you had like a bell tower in there, like gongs and stuff. And then you had your trumpet. Was that
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Oh, there
Yeah,
you go.
man.
See?
Yeah. All came
And
around.
I thought how cool that was. It was just usually when I hear like some sort of like saxophone or trumpets or whatever, it just seems like, why? That's me. That's my.
Yeah, no, I
I'm a
get
horrible
it.
person. But when used right, It really does sound really well. Yeah, and then Evergreen is just, to me, it's almost like the perfect indie album. Like it's so good. Like every song off that album is so good.
Thanks, man.
So yeah, your progression is just insane. You have so much to go off of. So
Yeah.
I know I just kind of just threw everything out there right now, but what was the mentality from the beginning and where you are now?
Yeah. Well, I'll just
Let's
jump
cover
in.
all the ground.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. The whole thing. Let's do the whole thing.
Sorry.
No, no, no. I mean, I think that Remedies, I kind of just pushed that one to the side because the idea with that was just to do some of the songs from Ailments as acoustic songs, and I wrote a couple to go along with that, but it was kind of its own thing. And that was, we had a couple extra days of studio time that my buddy gave us, so we just kind of knocked that one out. So I kind of pushed that one off to the side in a way. So that's where that one is. But as far as the three full lengths, Ailments, it was, I think, just that was when we were really playing and jamming a lot and in the basement all the time. That record's really, I think, just kind of loud and aggressive and raw and
Yeah.
angsty, and it was written really quickly. There were some songs that took a little longer, but a lot of that record was written within the last month before we recorded it, especially the lyrics and the melodies and stuff like that. It was just
Really?
all like,
Wow.
I'm kind of a crunch guy where it's like, we have to book the studio time, and then that's when I start hammering the stuff out. Like that's
Yeah.
how I get motivated. And so I listened. I'm still proud of that one. I was 20 when that came out, and
Wow.
yeah. So I listen back and I'm like, maybe it's not what I would have done now, but I'm happy with it. And I think then, since before our time, there was 4 years, 3.5 years between those albums, and we had a couple member changes, so that obviously changes the dynamic a little
Yeah.
bit.
True.
But that one was just me really wanting, on my end with the singing and the songwriting aspect, to really hone in on just like songwriting, like catchiness and hooks, while still staying true to like the complexity and stuff like that I like. And that was just really, that album was just so fun to make.
You're if I might say, you have some amazing harmonies on some of these songs.
Thanks, man.
They're just fantastic. It's such
Yeah,
ear candy.
thanks, man. And I have to credit that a lot to my friend Nick, who recorded the vocals for that record, because he just, Josh Schrader was the guy that recorded Ailments, and he's kind of a metal guy. He's done a lot of metal. There's a band called Lorna Shore that he just did.
Yeah.
Huge band, King 810. He does a lot of
Oh
metal.
wow, yeah.
But yeah. But he's my buddy from way back. He cut us a good deal and was awesome. And then Josh did all the instrumentation on Since Before Our Time, and then Nick tracked all the vocals. He's a singer himself. He was in a band called the Swellers, and he really let me play around with the vocals a ton. Like, never cut me off when I was like, dude, what if we try like this stupid thing here? Like, what
Yeah.
if I do like a weird Beach Boys harmony here? And he's like, yeah, dude, let's do
Yeah.
it. And he just made me feel so comfortable as somebody, who isn't always comfortable with singing. I love singing,
Really?
but it's something, it's so personal that when you're doing it in the studio, sometimes it's hard to get yourself in the headspace
Very
and not
true.
to be completely self-conscious. So he really, I'm glad you brought up harmonies, because I love that aspect of the record too. And that's, I'm happy that I got to sing them, but he really brought that out of me. And then from there, we took a break. We split in 2015, and then I moved away, and we were all still buddies and all still kept in touch and stuff. And
Where were you located before you moved?
Saginaw, Michigan, which is, I'm back
Oh,
in
that's right.
Saginaw now. But
Okay.
I moved only about an hour and a half away for about 5 years. My wife and I, now wife, and then over time, we just kind of were like, dude, like, let's get together and just write another album. Let's just do it. And my buddy Brian, he's my best friend. He joined the band as well as another guitarist. And yeah, we really got to, kind of finally write that grown up album, which I think was what Evergreen was. It was like, a
Yeah.
bunch of dudes with full-time jobs and mortgages and bills, that weren't trying to just make the rock and roll dream happen anymore.
Yeah.
It was like, we can just do this completely. Like, I used to really not like the idea of it being a hobby, but then as it came along, it was like, this can be a hobby, and we can still have an awesome time, and we can still put everything we want into it. And so we, booked. So Nick, who I mentioned, did the vocals on Since Before Our Time. He recorded, tracked that whole record for us. And
Wow.
yeah, he again, he was super gracious with, letting me try a million things. If you listen to
Yeah.
that record, there's so much like little ear candy things, which was just always him indulging my little ideas of like, dude, what if we put like, I don't know, a trumpet harmony at the end of this one. He's like, I mean, we can try it, and we
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it, and it turned out cool. And just standing in the live room with Brian, our newer guitarist, who loves guitar tones, just getting stupid feedback for like 20 minutes to find the perfect feedback
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah.
It was just like, I don't know, I look back on recording that album so fondly. It was so fun, and it felt so creative and free, and
You,
the
you,
chains were off, kind of.
yeah. And it's funny you're saying that because you can tell.
Mm.
Sometimes you can just tell with certain, just the way some. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's very interesting. It's almost, oh God, this is gonna sound really cheesy, like almost magical. Like you can feel when something's really connecting,
Yeah,
and there's something very I wish I could find a better word for it, but it
I
just
like magical. That's cool.
yeah, magical. But it is though, because you can tell sometimes when a band really just syncs together and it becomes like very unified, and it comes off in the music, it comes off in the lyrics. And yeah, when people connect like that and there's something special like that in the studio, and especially when you're saying fun, like when to me recording the album, it has its fun times, but I don't go, oh man, I look back on that full length and that was a lot of fun.
I mean, it wasn't without its stress and its headaches and stuff. And I mean, it was so much just like I think it was so much fun because, like I said, it was just kind of like a passion project,
Yeah,
essentially. Like,
okay.
it was like, I remember, so when we first booked the time, I'll give my wife some props here. When we first booked the studio time, I was still living an hour and a half away, which isn't a crazy distance or anything, but we couldn't be jamming every night or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So it was kind of like, I had 4 or 5 songs that ended up being on Evergreen that we went into the studio and tracked. And you know everybody had their input, and we had a really good time with it. That was my wife's first write, like seeing me write music. I hadn't met her yet when we had done our previous stuff. So
Oh, okay.
she had she liked my band, and she was always supportive and stuff like that, but she had never really seen me sit down and write. She would always say stuff like, that's so weird, like I can't imagine you writing lyrics and
Yeah.
stuff like that, because it just I hadn't done it. And I had always told her, like, if I go back and do something else, like I want it to be my masterpiece. That was always the word I used. Is cheesy as, like you said, magical masterpiece. That was always my word. Like, I don't want to do anything unless I feel like it's going to be my masterpiece, and our masterpiece as a band. Because we all work together. And so we did these 4 or 5 songs for Evergreen. What would eventually become Evergreen wasn't named at the time. I came home from the studio and still had some odds and ends, but I was like, we're just about done with it. And she said, well, is it going to be your masterpiece? And I said, no, because it's only 4 or 5 songs, and an EP can't be a masterpiece to me. It needs to be a full length. And she's like, well, then why don't you make a full length? And I was like, you're right. We got to do this whole thing again, huh? And luckily I had some ideas bouncing around that I was able to bring in, and we booked the time. And yeah, I mean, that was really what happened. It was like, it was going to be 4 or 5 songs, and then turned into the 10-song full deal thing. So no.
Well, then did you split it up? Then did you do like, okay, let's book time for 4 songs, 5 songs, and then like months later do another 5 songs or 4 songs, whatever it was?
Yeah, it was so it was definitely incremental like that because I'm pretty good with dates. So it was August of 2019 was our first. We booked a week. We had already had Ben, our drummer, come in and do the drums because we wanted him to get those knocked out so that we weren't, everybody sitting in the studio waiting for every part to be done. It's just
Yeah.
kind of exhausting. So he and I went and had him knock out the drums, and then we had a week of guitars and vocals, which really ended up just being guitars, guitars, guitars the whole time. And then, it was going to be, I go in and finish up the vocals whenever. And then once it evolved into this is going to be a full length, we booked another week in January to do the same thing, have Ben knock out the drums that he needed to do, and then do another full week of guitars, vocals, bass, whatever. And then obviously this is 2020, so pandemic hit. Right around that time is when I moved back to Saginaw. So then it was just kind of tying up loose ends. I booked another week probably in July, something like that, because there was that huge chunk of time where we're not getting together, we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So luck, which not to find the silver lining in the pandemic, but it was kind of nice because I had all this free time essentially to really hone in on ideas. And with my work, I was still getting paid, but I was doing this 2 weeks of work, 2 weeks of being home, 2 weeks out. So I had these long chunks where I could just really sit down and work on my stuff, and then I could send it to the other guys and they could work on their stuff. And by the time we were able to finally get in there and do it, it was pretty quick, all things considered, for how many bells and whistles I was intent on adding into it.
Well, you kind of hope that by you sending to them and all that time they had to practice and get it together, that
Yeah,
that they'd be super tight once you go back into the studio.
for sure.
So I mean,
Yeah.
you'd hope so.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
what
And I
it's
mean,
like.
and there's 3 guitars in our band, which is nothing. We had never done that until my buddy Brian joined. But Scott, he's been the other guitarist. He's been in the band with me since the beginning. Him and I were, are the 2 original guys. And
Oh wow.
they the 3 of us, for all being guitarists, have just these polar opposite styles. So it was super fun to me write something from kind of a songwriter. Here's my chord progression, and then bring it to Scott, who's has the craziest, weirdest mind for music. I could have never come up with the leads he comes with. And then Brian, the new guy, coming in and having all of that sensibility that I mentioned about, playing simpler. Like he'll be like, why would I do all that when I can do this thing that works? And so it was awesome. It was super fun to write. And I think all of us feel really connected to it because of that.
I would say for 3 guitars, you would have to definitely have some sort of really a decent connection, or at least
Mm-hmm.
the connection needs to go with some cool heads, because if there's any
Yeah.
sort of hubris or any kind of problem at all like that, you it's gonna
Yeah, and
be
there's
hell.
no ego there. It's really cool.
Good.
Like none of, there's no guy going like, I have to be the lead guy. We all wrote parts for each other. I would
Oh,
write
cool.
something that
Okay.
I know that I can't sing and play at the same time. So, that would go to one of them. Or,
Yeah.
Brian would add in a thing and he'd be like, but I'm already doing this other thing over here.
Yeah.
So, it worked out really well.
So then, did you guys ever actually play gigs?
In general, like in the life of our band,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we used to gig a lot. When we first started, like I said, 2008, 2009, we were playing shows, every weekend. 2010, a lot of the same. Yeah, we gigged. We never toured, but we were like, the local, the Michigan weekend warrior kind of thing. Yeah, we did a lot of that. And then when we split up, it was kind of because none of our schedules were ever lining up anymore. And I still had that mindset, for me at least, of like, I don't want to be in a band if we can't be like,
Yeah.
committing to it really hard. And then when we got back together, it was the opposite, where it was like, hey, why don't we write and record when we can? If a show comes up that sounds fun, like that's actually why we even got back together was a local show opportunity came up, and we got to kind of make this whole show around ourselves and some of our buddies. Forest Green, I saw that you posted about them. They're
Yeah.
good buddies of ours, so we got to
So good.
do a show. Oh yeah, those are my guys, man. We played with it. I played bass for them for their first show ever. Great
Oh,
band.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
those are my buddies.
cool.
Yeah, so got to bring our whatever bands we wanted to play with us and kind of structure a show around us doing a little comeback. And we haven't
Wow.
played a ton of shows because we came back in 2019 and then jumped in the studio, and then the world went to heck, so
Yeah. That really took a dump on everybody.
yeah, right.
Well, that's what's funny. The majority of the people I've talked to, bands, artists, whatever, you had people like, we just finished our album, we were just about to release it and go on tour, and then everything shut down. Or we were just about to go in the studio and then it shut down, or just a whole bunch of similar
I
stories.
think I have a little bit of nostalgia glasses when that comes back. I'm like, oh yeah, that was all fun the whole time, and then you don't think about the like me sitting there like, oh my gosh, like none of this is coming together. I hate the way my voice sounds.
Okay, so you know what? Hold on. I have to say is it's good to hear someone like you. To me, I think you have a fantastic. You got a great voice, dude.
Thanks, man.
So for someone who has a great voice, and you're like, oh, my voice, and it's like, okay, good. It's good to hear someone who's got a voice who feels that way about themselves too.
Yeah, I remember reading an interview or hearing an interview with Jim from Jimmy Eat World saying that he was like, it took me 5 albums or whatever he said to start to like appreciate my own voice and to like it. And I was like, okay, his voice has
Really?
always been awesome. So if he's feeling that way, then maybe I'm doing okay.
Yeah, right.
Because he's got a fantastic voice and he's self-conscious. So I can probably chug along. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's actually good to hear. 'Cause
Yeah.
God knows you hear the static. Was it static prevails or no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you hear static prevails and you hear anything now, you're just like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a difference that is,
Right. Yeah. He's fantastic. And, Nick, I keep mentioning him who recorded, he knows like the rules, like, when recording, just because I just can't get out of my own head. When I'm recording vocals, I don't want to hear it back. I want to sing it. I want to do the takes that he needs. I want him to tell me how it sounded to him. And then I want him to do whatever, work he has to do to get the best takes and all that, and then present it to me. I don't want to hear every playback. I don't want, I don't want to, yeah, dude, it's the worst. It's the pits, man. Like no unedited, no reverb, no room sound on it. Just, right into the mic. It just it sucks.
It's horrible, man. It so
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny.
It's the worst.
Have you heard of the band? So friends of mine, Protect Your Heart. Have you heard of them?
I haven't, no.
Awesome pop punk band.
Okay.
And Matty, the vocalist, he was saying that he loves having the people in the room when he's actually when he's recording.
I still didn't want anybody in my recording sessions except for who absolutely had to be there. And it was very much the same mindset of like, this is very personal for me. I don't want to have to think about other people being there because it'll get me in my own head and then I'll overthink things, which I have a tendency to do anyway. But I think the more I push myself as long as they were being productive and it wasn't just everyone, goofing around and I could stay focused, having more people there just has desensitized me to that entire process.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to him sing, he's got a great voice. Like he's got an awesome voice. And I'm just in my head, I'm going, I could never do that.
No, totally.
There's no way in
Yeah.
hell I could do that.
I mean, it was intimidating enough that in Nick's studio that there was the window into the control room.
Yeah,
Every
you're
album
looking at me.
every album I had done before that or any recording, it was just, in
So
a
weird.
little closet isolated, and I could, get in the zone and,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
get my vibe right and stuff. But I was like, there's that, like I said, that self-consciousness where I'm like, oh my gosh, they can watch me trying to, closing my eyes and trying to get in the zone and all this stuff. But to his credit, he was able to make me.
But
comfortable
he
enough
brought
to
it
do
out of
that.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I know
Make
Aaron
albums with your friends. Make albums with your friends. That's
Yes.
the best advice.
Yes, absolutely. I agree because Aaron does that with me. He really does try to pull stuff out of me.
Mhm.
And because I have had no experience vocally as far as like any real training, I've only taught myself. And
Same, yeah.
and but well, I mean, dear Lord, if that's you training yourself, my goodness, I need to take pointers from you too. Um, no, but just yeah, it's such a funny thing because he tries to pull it out of me, and there's times where I can get it, but to do it over and over again, because you got to hit the pocket, you got to get there, and if it's not there, or if it's too fast or too short or anything like that at
Yeah.
all, you kind of lose that momentum and that drive. At least for me.
Yeah, oh
Yeah,
totally.
because
And
then the self-conscious starts coming back in and rears its ugly head, and you go, "You can't do this, Scotty. You can't do this."
yeah, and it's
Such a
it's
hard
that,
game.
you might hit the note, you might be tonally, or hitting the note, but your tone doesn't sound cool. It just
Yeah,
sounds like you're just getting the note and whatever. It's like,
yeah,
no, dude, you got to sound cool too.
yeah. It's an interesting thing, man. I never thought it'd be kind of like this, but it's also good to talk to people like you and Maddie and a bunch of other people who are just like, yeah, they have certain struggles,
Mhm.
or certain insecurities, or even like their confidence. It's
Yeah.
like, man, I need to have that mentality when I go in there. 'Cause he was just full of positivity when he was talking about his experience and just like get
Mhm.
it. And I really wish I could take that in. I feel like I could take that into now with recording our future art.
Right.
Because we're doing covers right now. We're doing a
Oh,
couple
cool.
cover songs, and
Sweet.
then we're going to start doing our originals again. But I think I have that kind of mentality now where it's like, I can do this. I can get through this.
Mhm.
I can try and power.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't
It's a
know.
fight with yourself for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you tell? Will it ever feel how it felt? A couple more years, does the guilt go? Finding fractures in a cemetery, carved our names out in the ground. Let the season pass.
And with all that under your belt, because that's quite a list there of some fantastic albums. Um, what are you like doing now? Are you just kind of jamming with ideas, or are you just kind of like taking like a hiatus, or what's going on?
No, we're working on, I don't want to say too much because I don't know how much of it's going to end up happening, but we've been kind of working on reworking some old things and kind of putting a modern spin on some old stuff. So I don't know what all's going to come of it completely. So
Yeah.
I don't want to, commit anything, but I have to take time. I feel like after an album comes out before I start feeling the creative bug. I'm starting to feel it a little bit now. I'm starting to listen to bands and be like, ooh, like I like
Yeah.
the way that sounds. Like I want to try something. But I'm always the person that's like, and I think that everybody in our band is kind of this way. You finish an album, and that's kind of, not that I'm done with that sound, but we try to make the best version of that sound that we can make, and then move to the next thing and keep kind of progressing and moving
Yes.
forward. So
Yes.
I'm trying to find that next sound, that next feeling that would inspire the next real creative thing. um
Would you go drastic?
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I don't think that, I mean, the stuff that I listen to never sound like, I mean, it never sounds like, the music I was listening to when we were writing and recording Evergreen didn't sound like Evergreen, and same with stuff before that. So
Yeah, that's true.
it's just kind of weird, where what little spots you pull inspiration out of and then how you apply it. I would love to do something like I love Radiohead. I would love to do something that incorporated more like interesting,
Noises and electronic
loops,
stuff.
and
Yeah.
yeah, like I know nothing about the electronic stuff, but I have like a little keyboard that I goof around on, and just finding stuff with that's like that interests me right now, while still being a rock band,
Yeah.
without abandoning that. But things like that, just little things here and there, that's what I'm seeking out. What's the next bit of a little spark of inspiration?
No, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I love that. That's your kind of idea of what to do next.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So,
I,
but who knows? I mean, maybe the next one will be like a pop country album. I don't know.
people are gonna go, Wolves and Machines really changed.
I mean, maybe we'll make money. I don't know. I don't know what that feels like. So,
No, right? $2 on Spotify.
yeah,
Woohoo,
for real,
guys!
man. CD
Quit
Baby
my
sent me $14 the other day. That felt good.
Oh, oh wow, 14. You're rolling in
Yeah,
it.
yeah, big day.
It's so sad that we don't get paid jack squat.
Got the extra protein at Chipotle that day.
Well, would you guys actually consider playing now, or have you
Yeah,
played now?
we have. We not a ton, with everything going on, but we've done, I think, only 2 shows actually, now that I think of it. Since we did a show in October and one in November too. Just, kind of a time and place thing. There was a cool venue that nobody had ever played a show at, that us, again, both those shows were with Forest Green. We're just riding their coattails or something. But yeah, just, friend bands and, enough time in advance that we can actually get together and jam out the set. Those were the only shows that we ever played those evergreen songs from. So that felt good. I would like to play more shows, but it's become kind of a production anytime we need to, because there'll be months between, and we're all, like I said, we've got other things going on. So we don't have that set, hey, every, whatever we used to do back in the day, every Tuesday and Friday we practice, and every Saturday and Sunday we book a show. We just don't have the time for that anymore. So it's like, okay, it's March now, for example. Like, okay, maybe if there's a show in June, we could start thinking about a show in June, and put together 3 or 4 practices leading up to that, so that we have an idea of what we're doing.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you guys feel tight like together? Like, do you feel tight when you play live?
Those 2 shows that we played post Evergreen felt really good. And I think a big part of that, and a big part of the burnout that I felt back when we split up, was we were playing a lot of shows where just the rooms didn't feel good, and the sound wasn't awesome, and there were a lot of bars which just never feel good and
No.
inspiring. And so it was kind of being selective with venues, and selective with who's putting on the shows and who we're playing with. Not to be a jerk about it, but like I said, it's the same thing. Record albums with your friends. It's like play shows with your friends.
Yes.
It makes the vibe so much better. And I had a blast at these couple shows that we played. I would love to do more of it, but it's also something that I'm kind of at peace with. If we don't, if we play 2, 3, 4 shows a year, cool. If I can keep writing and recording music, that's kind of where the passion is for me anyway. So
Yeah, true. Do you record at home? Like, you go record your own, like, songs? Like, do you like demo songs at your house, or you just kind of like record certain just guitar riffs, or what do you do? What's your
So
favorite?
I'm pretty bad at the like I can knock out a passable demo, but Brian, he's kind of got, as far as our demoing and stuff like that goes, he's kind of my go. I actually was just over there the other day working on some stuff with him, because he's way better at turning the knobs than I am. I'm like, I'm the guy that I don't know how any of that stuff works. I just like to play. So
Yeah.
I've tried learning a little bit of the knob turning stuff, and it's just
This is just too convoluted for you.
it's too much. I'm the I turn on my amp, I turn the knobs until it sounds good. Okay. And
that's it.
we're off. Yeah. I hope everybody else knows what they're doing.
I can kind of relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think only just till I joined the band, I realized how much is more involved, and now I'm like, I should have done this earlier in my life. But
Mhm.
I would like you. I was just, it was for years, almost my entire life. It was like, okay, I kind of like how this sounds, like this sounds, and just go from there. And then hopefully my pedal will give that
Yeah.
extra thing that it needs,
Right.
whatever.
Exactly.
But you know what though? Honestly, I think it's a lot of fun because because Aaron's been engineering since he was like 12 or something. He really knows what he's
Yeah.
doing.
So he knows the stuff. Right.
And he's been such a great teacher and very patient with me because I'm very slow at learning. But at the same time, not like singing, but recording, watching videos, recording, there's a lot of good stuff out there that's very helpful, and
Yeah.
reminders and that kind of stuff. There's so many different kind of ways, and just even having that right ear,
Mhm.
because Aaron can hear things that I make fun of him because there's some times where I thought I got a great take, I nailed it, and stuff, and he says, "Oh, did you hear this little?" or
Yeah.
little click of something or whatever. And I go,
Right.
you can hear a gnat fart and it would just take the whole song out. I get it. Okay, you can hear everything. Like, can't you just take that out somehow?
Right.
De-ess it or whatever you call it.
Right.
But but he can hear that kind of thing, and I'm very jealous of it because he'll give me different mixes, and I'll listen to it and he goes, can you tell which one's which? No.
Oh, that's me.
No,
That's
I
me and
can't tell.
Brian. That's me and Brian.
Brian?
Brian will send something over to me, and I'm like, yeah, dude, like
That's good.
those changes you made are like totally noticeable. Like totally. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Whatever you
tell,
did,
yeah.
it's perfect. Yeah. He was just texting me last night actually because we were working on a little demo and we were doing a bunch of guitar tones and blah blah blah. And he was like, man, I just might want to rework this. I really don't like the rhythm guitar tones. And I was like, hey, do whatever you want with it. We're not releasing anything right now. And then this morning he texted me at like 6 a.m. He's like, disregard. I think I like the rhythm guitar sound. All right, man. Whatever.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I'm totally just like, if it sounds good, I'm into it. And I probably to my own detriment, like I don't go into it much further than that.
Do you ever get curious about it? Like, you're just kind of like,
oh, totally.
wait, how did you get that tone?
Totally.
Well, I mean, this guitar, or this amp, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've always thought, like, if I could pick a job that was, somewhat realistic, not just being like a millionaire rock star or something, but if I could work in a studio but not be the knob turner and just be the guy that was like saying, hey, that sounds good, hey, redo that, like that would be what I would like to do, because I feel like my ear is good enough for it. I just don't know how to move the parts. So if I could get a good engineer, and then I can I'll be the guy telling you if I think your guitar lead sounds cool.
Yeah. A little teamwork, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, has Brian ever said, hey, you want to come just watch me mix or anything like that? I mean, again,
he would definitely. I just, it's not that I don't. I think it's an attention span thing. Okay. I don't know if I have the attention span for it. And I'm constantly surrounded. I have like a group text with him and Nick. Nick owns his own pedal company, like effects pedal company.
Nice.
Wonder Effects, Oneder Effects. Check them out. They're awesome.
Cool.
He a group text with them and a couple other of my buddies, and all of them are kind of like gearheads, and I love guitars and I love pedals and I love amps. I just like the way they look and I like the way they feel. So like they'll be talking about like the diodes or like, oh, I have to calibrate this, and I'm just like, yeah, dude, totally, like,
right,
yeah, we are on the same page, totally. That is what you need to do.
Dude, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so great. No.
So I surround myself with the right people.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm also in a group too, like the guys from Protect Your Heart.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of different guys in different bands, and when they start doing tech stuff, I'm like,
yeah,
I'm out. But I want to know.
But how did that guitar sound make you feel? Like that's how did it make you feel?
They're like, okay, emo guy.
Yeah.
So with Wolves and Machines, is that just primarily where you want to stay, or you kind of want to go a little experimental, doing your like own solo stuff, or just kind of your own thing on the side?
Yeah. I've thought about that, but I feel like every time I write, like I kind of end up in a direction that I think that the dudes that I'm in a band with would contribute, and make it better. So I would never be opposed to doing like a solo thing, but I feel like anytime that I start to, maybe this will be something that I just keep for myself, and then I build on it, and I'm like, this would kind of fit in with what we all do together. So I'm not opposed to it, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious.
I mean, I've played with I had a cover band and stuff like that, and I had an old band when Wolves started as well. But besides that, it's just kind of been this the whole time.
I have two questions. One is, well, I need to bring this one back up because I think I did on episode 1 and I kind of pooped out, was who are you listening to now? Oh. And the other question is, what band And what album would you have loved to have been in the studio watching being recorded?
Ooh, that's good stuff. Good questions. Um, what am I listening to now? That was the first one.
Mhm.
I'll try to think of something modern. I love the new Manchester Orchestra record. I've really been diving into that one a lot. It's fantastic.
Oh wow, okay.
It's a band called Drug Church that just put out a
Oh,
new record.
so
Dude,
good.
it's incredible. Like just
So good.
that's one of those that like the guitar tones and the vocals and everything are just they're so
They're
awesome.
raunchy.
Yeah, it just sounds like it's so rock and roll. It's the
Totally
coolest. I
is.
love it.
So
And
good.
so those
Okay.
what else have I been digging into lately? Really those ones. Everything else I listen to is like musicals.
Oh, that's great. No, that's cool,
Yeah,
man.
so-
Whatever's influential, yeah.
yeah, so I listen to whatever the Les Miserables soundtrack, that kind of thing.
No, that's great,
Yeah,
dude. I
that,
love that. That's great.
And then what was your other one?
So what band
Would I want to
and
be in the
what
studio
album,
with?
yeah, would you want to have been and why they recorded it?
Oh man.
It's okay, there's
I'm gonna give you two. I'm
No,
gonna give
that's
you
fine.
two. I don't even know what both of them are yet. I just know what one is. But I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you like my deep cut one,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna give you like my famous one, I guess. I
Okay.
would have loved to be there for like probably any Radiohead album. OK Computer it comes to mind just because that's kind of the best of both worlds, rock and electronic, and all of the I don't know, they just did so much crazy stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, there's good documentary footage and stuff like that. So yeah, I've kind of gotten to see some of that, but that's like a total fly on the wall thing.
Yeah, totally.
Just because they were doing something that I think we hear so much of the influence from that record,
Very good point.
and those subsequent ones that maybe now it doesn't sound super revolutionary, but that record is just so crazy when you think it was like 1997 and that's what they were doing. It's wild.
Absolutely.
So that's one.
Good one.
And then the deep cut one, there's this band that I'm lucky enough that they were a band that started in Michigan called Anathallo. Have you ever heard of them?
I want to say that sounds familiar, but
I'm
I
gonna
can't
commission you to go check them out.
I absolutely will.
They're fantastic. They're probably the reason why I do like throwing like horn sections and stuff like that into songs every once in a while. If you listen to like the second track on our album on Evergreen called Ashes Petals, that song is just me doing my best to try to make an Anathallo song. They're like a 7 to 9 piece band. They had members coming and going, but they had percussion and horns, and their live show was I saw them a handful of times, unbelievable. And they have a record called Floating World. It came out in 2006, and it just got put on Spotify like 3 months ago.
Oh, really?
It's fantastic. It's my favorite album ever, and it's just unbelievable and creative. And yeah, I can't recommend that enough. So I would have just loved to see how, because you can tell everybody in that band had a voice, and I would have loved to see the creative unraveling of that. I don't know how it would be if I listened to it for the first time now, but I heard it when it first came out when I was 16 years old, and
blew your mind.
It's always been like it's the one album. If they somehow listen to this, please put that record out on vinyl. I want it so bad. Anyways.
Oh, I think enough people request. Man, I wonder if they would do that.
Oh yeah. Well, their keyboardist went on to be in that band Fun. That was the biggest band in the world for a minute.
Anathallo?
Yeah, it's Anathallo. And the album is called Floating World, but they also have another one on Spotify called Canopy Glow, which is equally fantastic. They have other stuff, but none of it's on streaming or anything like that, so it's a little more digging you'd have to do.
That'd be great if like all the the stage diving people and all the bands that are involved and stuff. That'd be great if they all like
Let's
just
step up,
farted.
man. Let's make it happen.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
hashtag this thing.
That'd be great, dude. That'd be so cool.
Yeah. That's why I'm doing this. I'm just trying to spread awareness for that specific album to be released on vinyl, and maybe for them to they broke up like 12 years ago, just get back together and play like one show.
You never
or
know.
a bunch of them.
Play around the Michigan area.
Yeah, just come home.
Oh wait, are they actually a Michigan band?
They started in Michigan, and then they did, I think as a band, they moved to Chicago. So they were kind of more a Chicago band by the end of it. But yeah, that's why I was so lucky, because they were a band that would play really local to me. But they toured with Brand New and Manchester Orchestra and stuff like that.
Nice.
So they started to have a little bit of that rolling, momentum. And then, they just kind of stopped playing. But
Wow. Oh yeah, I'll definitely check them out.
if you ever want to do an entire podcast about them, I'm down. Once you listen and you become obsessed with them like I do.
There you go. I'd be up for it.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, Mikey from Van Full of Nuns, he wants to do a horror podcast with
Oh,
me
sick.
and a couple other guys. So maybe we could do something where we do like a
Dude, gimmick podcasts are the coolest, man. If you like pro wrestling, I'll do a pro wrestling podcast with you. What else? Pretty much those two things. Yeah, I'll do a pro wrestling podcast with you for sure.
Only if it's like back where it was WWF, because I don't know anything after that.
I'm game. Dude. I'm game. Any of it.
That's funny. That's great, dude. Well, dude, hey, seriously, Aaron, thank you for taking the time, man. This is a lot
thanks
of
for
fun.
having me,
I
bud.
really enjoyed this. This was
Yeah,
great,
man,
dude.
this was super fun. I loved it.
I will. I'm hoping people can still follow you on pretty much all the socials. Wolves and Machines, just pretty much on all the socials, or anything that you're not on.
I think we're just on the big three: the Facebook and Instagram, Twitter thing.
Okay.
Don't really use any of them very much, but they're there. Great.
So you are the one that does it?
Yeah, I'm the one.
Okay. No one wants the other responsibility.
Yeah, that's right.
Just let me know when you got more stuff coming out, or just any kind of any other projects you're involved with, man. Because I'd definitely love to throw it on here and get more people to see and listen. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
all right, man. You have a wonderful night. Thank you again.
You too. Good meeting you, buddy.